Marvel. We've all seen it. We know what it is. Had a couple of good phases. Infinity War is probably one of my favorite movies. And then Disney Plus came out, and it all seems to kind of tank. Have you ever got the feeling watching one of these Disney Plus MCU shows that they kind of are rudderless, like they don't have somebody in charge, like they were all just kind of cobbling it together by committee, and there was no actual like coherent, consistent vision to it? Well, that's because apparently that's how they have been operating all of their shows. Daredevil hits reset button as Marvel overhauls its TV business. Launched during the pandemic with a playbook to shoot $150 million plus seasons with no pilots, the Disney unit is undergoing growing pains and seeing the logic of traditional TV culture. It didn't take long to see the problem after Marvel Studios' Daredevil Born Again paused production in mid-June during the writer's strike. Fewer than half of the series' 18 episodes had been shot, but it was enough for Marvel executives, including Chief Kevin Feige, to review the footage and come away with a clear-eyed assessment the show wasn't working. So in late September, Marvel quietly let go of head writers Chris Ord and Matt Corman and also released the directors for the remainder of the season as part of a significant creative reboot of the series, THR has learned. The studio is now on the hunt for new writers and directors for the project, which stars Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock, a blind lawyer turned superhero. This looks so bad. They've filmed like half the series and they're just firing everyone. Who knows how much of what they filmed they're even going to keep. The Daredevil revamp is the latest in a series of growing pains for Marvel Television. Since debuting the Emmy-winning WandaVision in January 2021, the studio, which dominated the film industry in the 2010s, has released more than 50 hours of TV programming after creating a small-screen division from the ground up during the pandemic. Through it all, the company eschewed the traditional TV making model. It didn't commission pilots, but instead shot entire $150 million plus seasons of TV on the fly. It didn't hire showrunners, but instead depended on film executives to run its series. And as Marvel does for its movies, it relied on post-production and reshoots to fix what wasn't working. Boy, let me tell you, that is the least surprising paragraph I have read about the MCU in a long time. Even though they remain, along with Star Wars titles, the most watched shows on Disney+, Marvel series have recently faced a number of creative challenges and cries of diminishing returns from critics and audience metrics, causing a major shift at the studio to move to make TV shows the more traditional way. We've got here a chart showing the total viewing in minutes and total number of episodes. So we can see Loki with 5.2 billion viewing hours, viewing minutes, I guess. WandaVision with 4.8 billion. Falcon and the Winter Soldier with 4.2 billion. These were the first three shows that they released. Then we've got She-Hulk, and then Moon Knight, and then Hawkeye, and then Secret Invasion, and then What If, and then Miss Marvel. And Secret Invasion was their most recent one. Now, obviously, we've got Loki Season 2 is currently out now, currently airing. But Secret Invasion was their last one, which I think pretty much everyone agrees was the worst Marvel series that they have put out. And, man, that one was a mess. But they are just, they're not doing great. We're trying to marry the Marvel culture with the traditional television culture, says Brad Winderbaum, Marvel's head of streaming television and animation. It comes down to how can we tell stories in television that honor what's so great about the source material. With Daredevil's new direction, Marvel hopes to right the ship on a project with sky-high expectations. The show is Marvel's first to feature a hero who already had a successful series on Netflix running 3 seasons. But sources say that Corman and Ord crafted a legal procedural that did not resemble the Netflix version known for its action and violence. Cox didn't even show up in costume until the 4th episode. Marvel, after greenlighting the concept, found itself needing to rethink the original intention of the show. Now, I saw something from the guy who runs the Discussing Film Twitter account, and so I don't know how reliable this information is. There's a lot of accounts out there who have leaked information. Like, I check Marvel Studios spoilers, the subreddit, on occasion, and there's a lot of people who have insider sources, but that doesn't mean that their information is always reliable. But what I heard is that the reason he's not in costume as Daredevil until the 4th episode is that he hangs up the costume because apparently in the first episode, they kill off Karen and Foggy, who are the heart and soul of the Netflix series. And I really hope, now that they're going back to the drawing board and hiring new writers and directors, that they completely undo that. if because I know that Karen and Foggy weren't going to be in this show, at least as they announced it, but now that they're going back, I would really like them to bring those characters back. And yeah, I think that's a horrible decision to not have them there and to kill them off. Not just like, oh, Matt decided to go on a solo practice, they're off doing something somewhere else, you know. That's a horrible decision. Marvel plans to keep some scenes and episodes, though other serialized elements will be injected, with Corman and Ord becoming executive producers on the 2-season series. That just means they get a credit for the work that they've done, but they're they're not going to be involved. The executive producer title at the end cards, like, Stan Lee was an executive producer on all of the MCU movies, and he had nothing to do with them at all. All he did was show up for a day to shoot a cameo. Beyond that, he had no creative control or any financial control of those films, right? It's a fancy title that you give some people, especially people who have been fired. Daredevil is far from the first Marvel series to undergo drastic behind-the-scenes changes. Those who work with Marvel on the TV side have complained of a lack of central vision that has, according to sources, begun to afflict the studio's shows with creative differences and tension. TV is a writer-driven medium, says one insider familiar with the Marvel process. Marvel is a Marvel-driven medium. On the Oscar Isaac star Moon Knight, I guess that's a word that kind of weird to... Okay. On the Oscar Isaac star Moon Knight, show creator and writer Jeremy Slater quit, and director Mohamed Diab took the reins. Jessica Gao developed and wrote She-Hulk Attorney at Law, but was sidelined once director Kat Coiro came on board. Production was challenging with COVID hitting cast and crew, and Gao was brought back to oversee post-production, a typical showrunner duty, but it's the rare Marvel head writer who has such oversight. Even though the company does not have a writer's first approach to TV, directors could feel shortchanged as well. The whole fix it in post attitude makes it feel like a director doesn't matter sometimes, says one person familiar with the process. As its shows ramped up during the pandemic, Marvel stepped outside its usual staffing process and brought in outside execs after years of internally promoting creatives who had been sufficiently trained in the Marvel method. This change was felt most severely on Secret Invasion, the Samuel L. Jackson-led thriller that stands as Marvel's worst reviewed series, and deservedly worst reviewed series. That thing, oh my god, what a mess. Kyle Bradstreet, a writer and executive producer on USA Network's Emmy winner Mr. Robot, fantastic show, had been working on the scripts for Secret Invasion for about a year when he was abruptly replaced after Marvel decided on a different direction. Enter new writer Brian Tucker, who pens the crime thriller Broken City, Thomas Bazooka, who helms the thriller Let 'Em Go, and Ali Salim, who worked on Hulu's 9/11 drama The Looming Tower, were on board as directors and to help crack the story. So far, so normal, at least by Marvel's creative development standards. Details are murky, but what happened next in the summer of 2022 debilitated the production as factions became entrenched and leaders vied for supremacy during Secret Invasion's pre-production in London. It was weeks of people not getting along and it erupted, said an insider. Marvel declined to directly comment on the matter. Secret Invasion, I genuinely don't know what the direction of that show was. For a story in which everybody is like could theoretically be replaced by an alien, they decided that a big chunk of the movie or a big chunk of the show was going to be devoted to Nick Fury's relationship with a wife that we've never heard of before. And then like the whole idea of having the Super Skrulls in so that you could replace superheroes and have their powers, but then it ended up just being the two Super Skrulls who fought each other. They would just, their arms would change to different heroes' arms whenever they would use their powers. It was so bad. And like for the stakes that like basically the stakes of the show was supposed to be World War III. It did not feel like a very big show to have those stakes. The company dispatched Jonathan Schwartz, a senior executive and member of Marvel's creative steering committee known as the Parliament, to get Secret Invasion back on track when it was falling behind schedule and on the verge of losing some actors because of other commitments. By early September, a good portion of the Invasion team had been replaced with new line producers, unit production managers, and assistant directors. And Bazooka, who was supposed to direct 3 episodes, left the show because of new scheduling conflicts. The Marvel executive overseeing the show, Chris Gary, was reassigned and, according to sources, is expected to depart Marvel when his contract is up at the end of the year. In other words, dude, yeah, you messed up this show so bad, we are not giving you another show to work on. As it moves forward, Marvel is making concrete changes in how it makes TV. It now has plans to hire showrunners. Yes, thank you. Imagine that. They've been face rolling their way through trying to reinvent television, and it turns out that actually studios have figured out how to run good shows, and it means having a showrunner run the show. Having a central voice whose creative vision can help direct the entire thing, turns out makes for a much better product than just a committee bashing it together, vying with each other for control, and then just hoping that the mismatch of whatever they've got is gonna come out to something anybody's gonna like. Correct, Paco. Turns out showrunners are important. Gao's post-production work on She-Hulk helped Marvel see that it would be helpful for its shows to have a creative through line from start to finish. So once they actually tried it, they're like, oh, well, that's why Hollywood does it. It feels like they went into TV with all of the arrogance of having dominated the box office for a decade and figuring that TV is basically the same industry as the movies. It's a term we've not only grown comfortable with, but also learned to embrace, says Winderbaum of showrunners and Marvel TV's intention to hire them. The studio also plans on having full-time TV execs rather than having executives straddle both television and film. That makes sense too. We need executives that are dedicated to this medium, that are going to focus on streaming, focus on television, says Winderbaum, because they are two different forms. It also is revamping its development process. Showrunners will write pilots and show Bibles. The days of Marvel shooting an entire series from She-Hulk to Secret Invasion, then looking at what's working, what's not, are done. Yes, that is a good idea. Their pilots are important because you have some initial upfront investment, you're building sets, you're casting people, but if a pilot doesn't work, you can, cut your losses early, or you can see what doesn't work and reshoot and fix it, and that will inform you much earlier than filming the entire series and then finding out it doesn't work. Game of Thrones famously reshot most of its original pilot, and up until the last couple seasons, that show was phenomenal. And so it's very, very important to kind of respect the process that Hollywood has, fine-tuned over 100 years on how to make a TV show, And just as Loki, which returned October 5th, marked Marvel's first season 2 of a series out of 9 TV shows to date, the studio plans on leaning into the idea of multi-season serialized TV, stepping away from the limited series format that has defined it. Marvel wants to create shows that run several seasons where characters can take time to develop relationships with the audience rather than feeling as if they are there as a setup for a big crossover event. Thank you. Also, they've got to get away from this idea of only doing 6-episode seasons. It's way too short. It just feels like they're trying to make a movie with some additional scenes. I don't think it works at all. I think it doesn't give us enough time to grow with the characters. It doesn't give enough time for enough stuff to happen in the show. They should be making 10 to 12 episode seasons. Now, granted, on a TV budget, that means that you're probably going to have to scale down some of your expectations for what you're doing, but people are fine with having TV maybe not having the grand scale of a $200 million blockbuster summer release. That's fine. I'm happy to accept that if it means we get better stories for it, because CGI, to quote George Lucas, a special effect without a story is a pretty boring thing. Some of its next shows, in fact, promise to be more personal stories. Echo, which premieres in January, is a grounded crime story with few visual effects revolving around deaf Native American anti-hero Maya Lopez, played by Alaqua Cox. Wonder Man, a show that was paused because of the writers and actor strikes, is meant to be a behind-the-scenes look at Hollywood and a character study of Simon Williams, played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen, a superhero who has a side gig as an actor and stunt person. That sounds interesting. I'm not really familiar with Wonder Man as a character, but that sounds like an interesting show. I don't know about Echo. I watched Echo's character was introduced in Hawkeye. I like the idea of introducing a deaf character, and I like that they cast an actual deaf actress to play her. And they also, even the deaf actress is an amputee. She had one of her feet amputated, and that's not the case for Echo in the comics, but they decided to work that into her character for this. Hopefully they can do something good with it, but I wasn't super invested in her character in Hawkeye. Hawkeye itself was kind of eh. I mean, most of these shows are eh. So I don't have high hopes for Echo, but the fact that they're doing a grounded crime story with few visual effects, that sounds like it could potentially give us something like the Netflix Marvel series, the grounded street level action. none of the Netflix Marvel series were any kind of huge budget things, but like that still gave us Daredevil and The Punisher and Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and Iron Fist. Actually, I haven't seen season 2 of Iron Fist. I did hear that was better. Season 1 of Iron Fist was horrible. But Netflix was able to do really, really, really solid Marvel shows. And they didn't need to break the bank to do it. So hopefully they have something with Echo that they've got an interesting story hook. I think for Echo, I think they were saying they were going to be releasing all of those episodes at once rather than doing a weekly release. We'll see if that's still the case. Winterbomb says he wants people to watch the shows because they love the characters. It should work, he says, beyond the fact that it ties into other projects or if they're going to be in a movie or if it is setting up an Avengers film. Yes, if a show is just there to set up an Avengers film, people are going to be like, okay, this is homework, I guess. The Miss Marvel show, like, I like the character of Kamala Khan, but unfortunately that show was kind of directionless, and seeing the trailers for the Marvels, it really felt like it was just an extended setup to have the character introduced so that people go watch the Marvels. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm trying to get my channel monetized, so your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell. I stream every Monday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons with a very special shout out to my Whale Shark tier patron Ryan D and my Anemone Friend tier patron Piftle Cakes. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.